Web Hacking Fundamentals. Understand the core security issues with web applications and learn how to exploit them using industry tools and techniques. In this module, we'll be exploring the basic components of the modern web, including both the basic protocols used, as well as various server components that make up the World Wide Web. You'll be diving into how to use Burp Suite, a tool which is widely regarded to be at the heart of web hacking. Additionally, you'll learn how to perform basic enumeration of websites and exploit the 10 most common web application vulnerabilities by hacking various real-world applications. By the end of this room, you'll know how websites are created and will be introduced to some basic security issues. When you visit a website, your browser, like Safari or Google Chrome, makes a request to a web server asking for information about the page you're visiting and will respond with data that your browser uses to show you the page. A web server is just a dedicated computer somewhere else in the world that handles your requests. There are two major components that make up a website. Front end, client side, the way your browser renders a website. Back end, server side, a server that processes your request and returns a response. There are many other processes involved in your browser making a request to a web server, but for now you just need to understand that you make a request to a server, and it responds with data your browser uses to render information to you. What term describes the way your browser renders a website? Websites are primarily created using HTML to build websites and define their structure. CSS to make websites look pretty by adding styling options. JavaScript implement complex features on pages using interactivity. Hypertext Markup Language, HTML, is the language websites are written in. Elements, also known as tags, are the building blocks of HTML pages and tells the browser how to display content. The code snippet below shows a simple HTML document, the structure of which is the same for every website. The HTML structure, as shown in the screenshot, has the following components. The doctype HTML defines that the page is a HTML5 document. This helps with standardization across different browsers and tells the browser to use HTML5 to interpret the page. The HTML element is the root element of the HTML page. All other elements come after this element. The head element contains information about the page, such as the page title. The body element defines the HTML document's body. Only content inside of the body is shown in the browser. The H1 element defines a large heading. The P element defines a paragraph. There are many other elements, tags, used for different purposes. For example, there are tags for buttons, button, images, img, lists, and much more. Tags can contain attributes such as the class attribute, which can be used to style an element, e.g. make the tag a different color, pclass equals bold text, or the src attribute, which is used on images to specify the location of an image. img src equals img/cat.jpg. An element can have multiple attributes, each with its own unique purpose, e.g. p attribute 1 equals value 1, attribute 2 equals value 2. Elements can also have an ID attribute, PID equals example, which is unique to the element. Unlike the class attribute where multiple elements can use the same class, an element must have different IDs to uniquely identify them. Element IDs are used for styling and to identify it by JavaScript. You can view the HTML of any website by right-clicking and selecting View Page Source, Chrome, /show page source, Safari. Let's play with some HTML. On the right-hand side, you should see a box that renders HTML. If you enter some HTML into the box and click the green Render HTML code button, it will render your HTML on the page. You should see an image of some cats. View site. JavaScript, JS, is one of the most popular coding languages in the world and allows pages to become interactive. HTML is used to create the website structure and content, while JavaScript is used to control the functionality of web pages. Without JavaScript, a page would not have interactive elements and would always be static. JS can dynamically update the page in real time, giving functionality to change the style of a button when a particular event on the page occurs, such as when a user clicks a button, or to display moving animations. JavaScript is added within the page source code, and can be either loaded within script tags, or can be included remotely with the src attribute. Script src equals /location / of /javascript_file.js/script. The following JavaScript code finds a HTML element on the page with the ID of demo and changes the element's contents to hack the planet. Document.getElementById, demo.innerHTML equals hack the planet. HTML elements can also have events, such as onClick or onHover, that execute JavaScript when the event occurs. The following code changes the text of the element with the demo ID to button clicked. Button on click equals document.getElementById, demo.innerHTML equals button clicked. Click me / button on click events can also be defined inside the JavaScript script tags and not on elements directly. Click the View Site button on this task. On the right-hand side, add JavaScript that changes the demo element's content to hack the planet. Sensitive data exposure is when a website doesn't properly protect or remove sensitive clear text information to the end user, usually found in the front-end source code of sites. We now know that websites are built using many HTML elements, tags, all of which we can see by simply viewing the page source. A website developer may have forgotten to remove login credentials, hidden links to private parts of a website, or other sensitive data shown in HTML or JavaScript. Sensitive information can be potentially leveraged to further an attacker's access within different parts of a web application. For example, there could be HTML comments with temporary login credentials, and if you viewed the page's source code and found this, you could use these credentials to log in elsewhere on the application, or worse, use to access other back-end components of the site. Whenever you're assessing a web application for security issues, one of the first things you should do is review the page source code to see if you can find any exposed login credentials or hidden links. View the website on this task. What is the password hidden in the source code? View site. HTML injection is a vulnerability that occurs when unfiltered user input is displayed on the page. If a website fails to sanitize user input, filter any malicious text that a user inputs into a website, and that input is used on the page, an attacker can inject HTML code into a vulnerable website. Input sanitization is very important in keeping a website secure, as information a user inputs into a website is often used in other front-end and back-end functionality. A vulnerability you'll explore in another lab is database injection, where you can manipulate a database lookup query to log in as another user by controlling the input that's directly used in the query. But for now, let's focus on HTML injection, which is client-side. When a user has control of how their input is displayed, they can submit HTML or JavaScript code, and the browser will use it on the page, allowing the user to control the page's appearance and functionality. The image above shows how a form outputs text to the page. Whatever the user inputs into the "What's your name" field is passed to a JavaScript function and output to the page, which means if the user adds their own HTML or JavaScript in the field, it's used in the say hi function and is added to the page. This means you can add your own HTML, such as a<h1 tag, and it will output your input as pure HTML. The general rule is never to trust user input to prevent malicious input. The website developer should sanitize everything the user enters before using it in the JavaScript function. In this case, the developer could remove any HTML tags. View the website on this task and inject HTML so that a malicious link to http://hacker.com is shown.